My name is Jake Heggie. I'm the composer of Ahab Symphony, and you are about to hear the world premiere of that piece here at UNT with the grand chorus and orchestra and soloist tenor Richard Croft and the conductor David Itkin. In 2005, my colleague Terrence McNally suggested an opera based on the book Moby Dick, and that turned into a project that I wrote with librettist Gene Shear for the Dallas Opera, and it premiered 3 years ago this month at the Dallas Opera. And I was so immersed in that wonderful world of Melville and the whole world, the magical world that he created in Moby Dick, and had such a wonderful experience writing the opera. As tough as it was a really joyful, amazing journey, that I wanted to explore some more of the themes that I had come up with musically, as well as the themes that we had begun to explore in the opera, but that required some way to go more introspectively and deeper, because an opera requires action, and in a symphonic work you can become much more introspective and reflective. So that was the initial acquaintance that I had with Moby Dick and with Herman Melville. The opera went very, very well and had a big success. And right at that time, I was asked by Dean James Scott, Dean of the College of Music at UNT, if I would consider doing a residency here. So I became the artist in residence at UNT in 2010 and 11. And part of that residency included writing a piece, and I just saw this as the ideal opportunity to really do this piece that I had been thinking about since writing the opera Moby Dick. At first I thought I would just explore Ahab monologues from the book that I hadn't been able to set in the opera because they're so introspective and they require time to work out. And then Gene Shear led me to this beautiful, amazing poem by W.H. Auden called Herman Melville. And from that moment on, the shape of the piece became very clear. And what I decided to do was juxtapose that beautiful poem, which is kind of a meditation on the end of the author's life, and juxtapose that with a very short monologue from the very last chapter of Moby Dick, when Ahab knows he's going on the hunt and this will probably be his last day on the planet, and he decides to take one last look over the sea and the world. And so time stops and Ahab has this moment of reflection, and that is juxtaposed with the chorus that is singing the Auden poem about the end of Melville's life. And it becomes a reflection basically on how we all rail against the randomness of things, because the world is so random and we don't get to determine the outcome of events, even though we would like to tell the earth which way it should turn and the tide which way to fall and the clouds which way to roll. We don't get to do that. And so Ahab looks at this in this magical moment and realizes that the earth looks exactly the same as it did to him when he was a boy. Really nothing has changed except that he's experienced all this struggle. So what does it all mean? And that's where the meditation begins. So the material that I decided to use in the symphony really starts from this moment in the opera when Ahab sights Moby Dick. So in the opera, it would be as though time stops right at that moment and Ahab has a 30-minute meditation on what that moment means to him in his life. But I also weave in the story of Melville. So there are many themes, actually, a lot of melodic and motivic material in the symphony that come directly from the opera. So people that know the opera, or have heard it, will recognize big themes that are from it. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do as well in the piece, was really continue to explore the melodic and motivic and rhythmic and harmonic world that had opened up to me in creating the opera, except do it in this more meditative situation of a big symphonic work. The choir is consistent throughout the entire piece. The orchestra is a standard orchestra with double winds and a lot of strings and brass and a lot of percussion, and then, of course, a very large choir. There are 4 movements to the piece. The first movement is Dawn, and it's that moment, again, when Ahab suddenly looks out at the world and thinks how it hasn't changed really at all since he was a little boy, regardless of everything he's gone through. And I would listen in that one for the overall meditation of that movement is really stuck on C major, and in particular the note C. So in a funny way, musically, it's meditation on the key of C major, which of course is the key that is basic, and in C major it's all white keys, and that was also the key that I used in the opera. It's all white keys, so that's when he sees the white whale for the first time, is this big explosion of C major. So the first movement is that meditation on C major, and at the very end of the piece, the entire choir and the soloist hum just on middle C for a very long time. The second movement is called The Wind, and you'll hear percussion doing lots of swipes with brushes and with sticks on the tam-tam and or the gong and the suspended cymbals and lots of other sort of very brilliant shimmering sounds. And the choir really just sang the word, the wind, the wind, the wind, the wind, the wind, in this very menacing way. And the piece grows from there. And it's really, that movement is about how we have no control over the elements. And we can see them as benevolent or malevolent. Doesn't really matter, they just are. The third movement is for choir only with orchestra, so the soloist sits that one out. And it's really this beautiful meditation about parentage. Melville's father died when he was very young. We know nothing about Ahab's father, except we know that he is a father, he is a parent who has left his child behind. And it is sort of a meditation on how the father figure has dominated both of their lives in a way. The fourth movement is a kind of defiant final cry and resignation, recognizing that we are all just pieces in this very, very large puzzle. And it's up to us to find meaning in that big puzzle. I don't think analytically about my own work, but I do know that musically, dramatically, vocally, in terms of all the writing that I do, Moby Dick was a huge step forward for me. It's just a more mature, riper work, which is of course what you keep hoping for as a composer, that you move forward. This piece comes out of that particular world, plus some original material from when I wrote it recently. And the whole construction would be original because it's just pulling material. It's not a suite from the opera. It's based on material in the opera plus new material. I have no idea what period creatively I am in. I'm just grateful to be in a creative period at all and still writing, and very proud to have written this piece for the university and for the College of Music, and to be here to share it. The exciting thing about doing this piece, developing this piece here at the university, is I've never done a piece like this before, a big symphonic work with choir and soloist. I'm a theater composer, so I'm used to writing pieces that have action and a full storyline. So to do something that's very contemplative, introspective, reflective is unusual. And so the opportunity to develop here at the university with students that are so game to try things and really game to work hard and bring their best to the piece, you know, in the orchestra and the choir, as well as the brilliant faculty that have really helped them to shape it. What the great element about that is we have time, which if this were a professional orchestra, we'd have a couple hours of rehearsal, maybe at the most, to put it together. And here we've had, you know, several days to work on it, and they've had several weeks to learn it and incorporate it and get it in their voices, in their bodies, and really ask questions about it and think about it and get it together, which is not the kind of luxury that you have in a professional organization. Plus, I just love working with students. I love their energy. I love the ideas and the passion and the commitment that they bring with them. So I think the piece is a better piece because of that. I'm so proud of the work the students in the orchestra and the choir have done. There are about twice as many of them as I had originally thought, which is really thrilling. And Richard Croft is just sensational, one of the great singers and great artists in the world. And David Itkin is a fantastic conductor who is leading all the proceedings. I also have to thank very much Jerry McCoy, the conductor of the Grand Chorus, and Richard Sparks, another wonderful choral conductor here, for overseeing the project, and the dean, Dean James Scott, who was the initiator of it and the guardian of and the godfather of the piece, and to whom the piece is dedicated.